Welcome to William Steele, True Crime, and Still a Spotlight TV. I'm back with Ignacio Esteban, retired ATF agent.
Bill, what's
Ignacio.
going on, man? What's up, buddy? Always
Right.
doing more topics, more shows, more things to talk about with the audience. I think they enjoy what we talk about, and it's always something to talk about. Always something
Oh,
going on. We
the,
got
the,
plenty
dra-
to talk about.
the drama never ends. And,
No,
fairness to these other competing channels, I don't look at you guys as competitors because I learn a lot from how you're doing things. I've been in prison 18 years. So I'm just playing catch up, and I think I'm doing okay for being out just over a year. So
yeah,
I'm
and I
learning.
and I, I enjoy doing these shows, and of course, we do the weekly show,
Yep.
and we do quite a few of them. But I've been a guest, I think, over 150 shows already. It's crazy. I've been doing this almost 2 years now, Bill. It's unbelievable. 2 years with the shows and the books and the writing, and everything else. And I enjoy talking about all these topics. And I think we're helping educate people, which I think is the most important thing. I think today we're going to talk about follow up from the Robert Card,
Yep.
right? The worst mass shooter in Maine's history, right? And probably the worst mass shooting since Uvalde, Texas, which happened last summer. That had the massacre of the school at Robb Elementary, which is heartbreaking. And again, all these mass shootings have something in common: mental health issues.
Mhm.
All these guys have crises. All of them have been. It's almost very similar what happened there in Parkland a few years back, right in Florida, in South Florida, right there at the high school with Nicholas Cruz, where there were a lot of people pointing the finger. This kid's not right. He's making threats. He's doing things. It was reported to the FBI. They sat on it, fell through. They would have to settle with the family of the victims years later because they knew anything. Possibly, I know that governor just signed a report commission to start investigating independently who knew what, when, and where did it go wrong. What happened here? Because a lot of people were saying a lot of things about this guy Card. At the end, people who don't know, he committed suicide. At the end, he left a note after he committed the mass shooting. He said he was dead for between 10 to 18 hours when they found the body. That's what the medical examiner said. So he was dead for a while. And the weapons he used, he bought himself. He bought himself. He had the weapons, a 308 rifle that he had that he massacred those people with. He bought himself, and the pistol he shot himself with, he bought himself. And they knew he had all these weapons. And he was institutionalized in a mental hospital for 2 weeks. Why was he released when everybody said his situation was digressing? His own son said
It was getting worse, and he made threats of shooting up the reserve army base where he was.
before.
Right.
And because they were allegedly in his mind, he was hearing voices, and people. He told his son that allegedly that people were calling him a pedophile, right?
Right. Now,
And
this isn't that we're reporting from the news. We're not using that word gratuitously here. This is news reporting, educational rehashing of what's publicly out there. So these are not our accusations.
what's been out there, and the authorities went out there trying to find him. They messed it up. They have yellow flag laws. What was enough? What more could they have done? My thing is, if he's in this mental hospital and they see situation, everybody says he's getting worse. Why was he released? A lot of questions to be asked.
Right.
Why didn't he stay longer? And why didn't the army do something else about him? I guess what could they do? And the authorities, they need to find him. And they should have talked to him. They should have hunted him down. But a lot of people think he would have been. His own family, his brother allegedly offered to take his weapons from him and hold it for them.
Wow. Now, I was doing some homework, getting ready for this follow up with you, and there was, go figure, NBC, I think it was, interviews a guy who appears to be, focused on other men and not on women. So he was saying, I was one of his neighbors, and we knew to stay away from him and his family. They are right wingers. They are, almost implying Trump supporters. Just the whole negative spin about that, and that it was rumored that people were starting rumors about him that he was the P word, and that enraged him in addition to his mental illness. But that they would hear gunfire on the compound, the family compound, all avid shooters and militiamen. Now, this is reporting from another network. We're not making these accusations, but it's just ironic who they would pick to interview for that. And the things they said would just attack the political party rather than this guy's mental illness and the lack of law enforcement doing their job to take this guy's guns.
Yeah, because obviously he's in the reservists in the army. He's a sergeant. He's a firearms instructor. He's a weapons expert. He takes those skill sets that he has. His world is deteriorating. He hears voices allegedly. People are talking to him. He's hearing stuff. And so his situation goes bad. If it's anybody to do that to innocent people who don't know, I mean, this was a bowling alley where families were at. This was a bar family was at, and he comes in there with his 308 rifle. He starts opening up, and there's people out there that try to charge him who died heroically. Who tried to take him out before he killed innocent children, and they died trying. They died heroes. They died heroes.
Yeah, yeah. It was a nightmare. There was a manhunt. I don't forgot how long it went on, but do you remember
2
how they
days.
eventually located the body itself? I mean, he's no longer actively shooting. He's dead for half a day, over half a day.
Yeah, I think
How
they
did they
just came
eventually
across.
track?
They just came across the body because it was such so many people out there searching, and I think it wasn't all covered up. I mean, he shot himself in the head, and allegedly that's what's been reported. And,
'Cause
and they
I
found
know
him.
somebody else. Like when I was incarcerated in another state, I was a law clerk, and in his case, this guy hit an old man with a stick, knocked him out in front of his house. They were arguing over a stolen tattoo gun or something, you know. So this young kid hits the elderly man with a stick and knocks him out on his thing. Probably something that might have been treated as a fractured skull or concussion, maybe survivable if he got help right away.
Mm.
He lays out there. The family checks on him like a week and a half later. He's out there, pieces of him, and they find out. They call it the predatory action of animals because there's bears and stuff around that area.
Mhm.
And actually, in Virginia, this happened,
Oh
and
well,
and so many pieces were never found again, and there was indicators on the body of predatory, whatever. I forget how they call it, not predation, but whatever it is when the animal eats the corpse that's sitting there
sure,
unharmed.
sure, sure, sure.
So if this guy's corpse was sitting there much longer, the same thing probably would have happened to it.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Especially up there in Maine, they got all that. So it's just a matter of time. So at least they found the corpse. There's some closure there. The investigation can go forward. But the question is now the governor's concerned. Everybody's now CYA, and they're all going to point the finger at different people, right? Because this shouldn't have happened. People knew what was going to. This could have been prevented, right? Just like Nicholas Cruz could have been prevented. If the right people, authorities knew about him, the army knew about him, mental health knew about him, right? A lot of people knew about this guy. Family knew about him. Friends knew about him. Neighbors knew about him. So the system failed.
Right.
Obviously,
Now,
system failed.
Ignacio, I know, with your background in law enforcement, you're a prolific author. You definitely have a book or two about this topic. What are
Sure.
those books so I could tell my people to look them up?
Yeah. That's been the worst mass shootings in U.S. history and how to stop them from happening again. And I got inspired after it happened in Uvalde and the disaster that was. And that was the authorities not responding and sitting outside for almost 80 minutes while the killer was massacring kids and teachers inside the classroom there. That was a disastrous response. There's some good ones, like we said about Nashville was a good one. And we talked about some other ones where they come in there pretty quickly. The transgender one, the female that wants to become a male, right, at her school that she killed. That was, I think, a few months ago.
Didn't that manifesto just get leaked like in the last 2 days?
Yeah, maybe somebody can look
And
at
there were some
later. I
letters
have a
that
chance.
were written that were saying that
Yeah.
didn't like the white people that ran the area, didn't like this, didn't like that,
And she was an alumni there. She studied there. Can you imagine that going back to your old school and killing all these young students? And the principals, they always do the same. They want to save the students, always charge. And the principals always get, just like Sandy Hook, the principal went out there to try to save her students. He dies there and all these horrible situations. Same thing with the principal. She died in that school also trying to save her students. And she's killing them, the teachers.
They're giving these kids these chemicals to
Yes.
transition them from one sex to another that make their brain into a chemical bomb cocktail. And if you look at a lot of the side effects for many of these types of drugs, a lot of the antidepressant drugs say they lead to suicide and homicide. And then you're mixing them with all these hormones and this and that, and their brains are still forming. They don't have proper, skills to make decisions. I don't even think anybody does until you're like 23 or something.
Yeah.
But you have kids in there, 14 taking these chemicals and being told it's okay to change all your body parts around. And then they're wondering why this firestorm in their brains is making them freak out and do these things. I just don't get it. And then it seems like they try to conceal it to protect that industry in the pharmaceutical industry.
Yeah. So that's a book. I talk about a lot of stuff there, but the biggest problem we have is mental health crisis. I mean, some of the worst ones we have, Steve Paddock from Las Vegas. Also, he was very successful. Obviously, he was a white male, older male, and he had issues. And
That was at a concert. He shot down from the hotel at the concert.
Sniper, yeah, he set up. He had 2 high-end suites there at a hotel there in Las Vegas, sniper style, opening up in there. And that's the reason why the bump stocks end up getting banned, because he ended up using bump stock on his assault rifles to make him shoot faster, almost like fully automatic, a lot faster. And he kept on using all these different weapons. He had like over 30 something. Look at all the videos online, over 30 something, broken the windows, and you see the smoke coming in, and he dies like a coward. You see the picture of him; he commits suicide when they saw the police coming.
To this day, there was no motive given at all. I don't think there was ever a motive discovered, was there?
Well, I think they're all crazy, mental health.
Yeah.
That's a problem because it's not normal. If you're not terrorist, you're not domestic, and all of a sudden you want to kill people, and your situation like this guy. What's his motive? Angry, mental health issues. That he hears voices when when you hear all these serial killers that say it wasn't me that did it. It was other person that made me do it. Right? I wouldn't have done this. With other ones, and they make excuses. It's a ton of reasons why, and at the end, it's a crisis we have in this country, one after the other.
Human mind, I freely talk about my mother's mental illness. I grew up with this, and she was committed to psychiatric hospitals, and it's heartbreaking the things she went through and thought over the years and said, and like inviting Jimmy Carter over to my my birthday party when I was 13 years old, and writing letters to Prince Philip, and we'd have the walls covered with letters from Buckingham Palace and the White House. Thank you, Mrs. Steele, and but we can't. President cannot attend your son's birthday party. He has prior, but we'd get these courtesy letters back, and so the mind and the lady we were working with in assisted living, who we have tons of video for, just so loving and lonely and glad to see us, and yet when she speaks to others, she can't remember what she did that morning.
Sure.
And it's just heartbreaking how it can come and go. And one of the guys, the guardian ad litem in the case you and I discussed, told us 2 days ago, he said, look, her changing her story about who she remembers and doesn't is truly not malicious. She didn't remember who I was, let alone who you guys are. She said, as soon as you walk in the room, she'll remember who you are because she spent a lot of time with her. But with me, I've seen her once or twice, and she didn't remember me. She doesn't remember the current guardian. She doesn't remember that she was put into a guardianship, and she's being, in our opinion, manipulated by the people that have her there to believe that we're the bad guys. It's like sort of like a Stockholm syndrome. And I've heard other experts compared it to undue influence. You're exposing corruption there, alleged corruption, but we have the proof. Yeah. They don't want to expose, so the best they can do is demonize us and then try to get this poor lady who doesn't have a good memory to go along with it. It's
there's a saying, right? First they isolate, then they medicate, and then they liquidate.
And it's sad. And I'm writing a book about corruption within the guardianship systems in the United States, and because there was a massive case, just like folding, kind of identical to what goes on here. It seems like I'm not alleging corruption here at all. We don't have the proof yet. We just saw close to 100 cases that were handled by all the same people, and most of them were rubber stamped with no accounting or anything. And in Las Vegas, a lot of people were doing the same thing, and a lot of them went to prison for doing it. So I'm writing a book about guardianship and try to look for reforms and get with other organizations. And I just finished writing a book about a week ago about assisted living facilities and abuses and selecting them. And so I have to polish that. Maybe I'll send it out to you for an advanced review so you see what you think.
Yeah, that'd be great. I'll definitely look at that. That's an interesting topic and very relevant in today's society. Yeah. A lot of people are going through those same issues. So for sure, Bill,
it's heartbreaking because my mother was abused in the psychiatric places in various ways, and so that stuck with me all my life. As I got out of prison, I wanted to be the good guy again. I didn't want to hurt anybody. I want to help people with my knowledge and my voice and my platform. That being said, Ignacio's got some books on these subjects. I've got some coming out. He has solutions to these mass shootings book.
Yeah. It's a lot of it. We may have to copy a lot of what's going on in Israel and fortification, right? Because if they had armed security there, right, off-duty officer, maybe a different situation with this guy Card, right? Yeah. And even though you have a concealed weapons permit, you still can't carry open carry. I think Maine is open carry, constitutional carry. You can have open or concealed as long as you pass a background. But you can't bring like places you're drinking. If this is like a bar or bowling alley which have alcohol served and you're gonna be drinking, well then you have to leave your gun in your car. But that's not going to help you. So you need to have these kind of places, armed policing or off duty or security. That's smart because, like I said, if it happens in Lewiston, Maine, in a bowling alley on a Wednesday night, you're not safe anywhere.
I'll tell you what, and let me bring this up because I meant to bring it up on a previous show. There's at least one or two companies that now put out an AI surveillance camera system because they found out through law enforcement and all this that the majority of active or mass shooters, when they're trying to enter a building to do this, pull out their weapons just before they enter.
Sure.
and in the entranceway, they already have it out as they're going in.
Right.
This AI program doesn't just say, hey, there's somebody here if you happen to be looking at your security camera. It immediately identifies if there's a handgun, rifle, whatever. It identifies a handgun or a rifle, and immediately alarms the whole place that there's somebody entering, or trying to get in, and he's armed, and it's out, and it's out. This AI is so advanced; it detects it before they ever get into the building, which gives everybody a chance.
At least that's something to get people going. Then maybe that's something we can start using.
I'm going to look up a couple of these companies, and I'm going to give them a free ad here on my thing. I'll maybe put a little advertising up. I have no vested interest in it. I have not personally vetted them, but I think I'm happy to spread the word, and I like to have the inventors and these CEOs from these type of companies on my show as a guest as well to talk about their products.
Yeah, because as we know, Bill, every time there's an active shooter, because all these guys have mental health issues, they get triggered, right? So as we speak today, someone has been triggered from what happened with Robert Card, and they're planning the next mass shooting because unfortunately it's an epidemic that happens in this country. And another one we'll be talking about. It doesn't stop because we have a plethora, so many people who need mental treatment who are not getting it. They need help and they don't get it. This guy needed help. Yep. He needs to stay in that hospital. He should never have been released, but he did.
And like you said too, the threat levels and what do you say? The alarm bells are ringing all throughout law enforcement that there's actively planning attacks within the United States from these terrorist sympathetic groups or whatever.
Yeah.
And so we need to be prepared. And if these products work, look at the reviews. I'm just giving them a free ad because on the surface, they seem that they detect. And I would love to have the inventors and the CEOs of these companies on my show, to talk about their products and how effective they are. So maybe we'll do a show with them, the three of us. So that'd be good. So let's transition. Check out Ignacio's books on these topics. And
look me up on Amazon. Ignacio Esteban, right there. You see my name, Amazon. Look at Bill's books up on Amazon. Look at all the stuff. Look at our shows. We talk a lot about things. A lot of things to look at. Audible too. You can check me up on Audible, Amazon, everything here, and everything we talked about. It's good stuff.
Yep. Now we're going to transition real quick. We just want to wrap this up with a little bit of a story about these Republican debates that were held.
My goodness, the third one. They just get better and better. Less people and more intense. Yeah. Pence is gone now. For people who don't know, former Vice President of the United States, with Donald Trump, has decided that is not for him. He had no chance anyways. I think he had 2 or 3 percentage points. He had no chance. He was out, and he says he may try again in the future. I don't know. He's unpopular. Obviously, the left doesn't like him. He's unpopular also on the right with many of those who support Trump. They don't like that. So I think he'll have a tough time down the road there. Others have dropped out also. So now you have, who do you have? Chris Christie. You have Vivek Ramaswamy. You have Ron DeSantis, Nikki Haley, and this guy's Tim Scott from South. I think he's going to be gone soon. So a bit 4. I think Christie's going to be gone soon also because his percentage is really poor. He thinks he's going to win New Hampshire. I don't think he's going to win New Hampshire. I think Trump is a runaway. But Trump doesn't even show up. That's how confident he is. He doesn't show up. Now, obviously, he has his legal issues. He has to deal with a civil trial. He just testified. His son's testified. His daughter testified. It's a big deal there. We'll see how that turns out. And he has other issues. Now I heard they're going to have personal people from Mar-a-Lago testify against him on the document cases, who have classified documents in the bathroom, from the maid to people who worked in there. A lot of things they countered and they went through. Obviously, the big stink was that a lot of people knew about him talking about the possible invasion of Iran, operational plans, and bombings that they were considering. That's all out there. So that's a problem. I mean, you have a skiff. If I was to do that, Bill, I'll be honest with you, we have classified documents, and I was so reckless of that, I go to jail for that. I mean, he's a president of the United States. He needs to know better, and he's a protector. I think if any of those, to be honest with you,
here's the thing.
I think that's the most serious charges.
I hear you, and if he did it, of course, it's actionable. But I think probably he's briefed about the proper handling when he gets in office. It's like he's so motor mouth. It's like a rookie mistake. It's like it's not only a rookie mistake; it's a felony. You can't talk about our plans with people that don't have clearance or outside of protected environments.
And you can't take those documents to your bathroom in Mar-a-Lago and storage in your bathroom. We have people who are working there. The one guy doing maintenance, doing the crown molding, he said he was looking at the stuff. Allegedly, what's been reported now.
So he decided to use the bathroom while sitting on the bowl. He was fingering through our plans through.
Well, he's working on the bathroom. He's doing the crown molding on the bathroom. and it's right there. You guys not even smart enough to. I mean, come on, man, that's reckless.
Well,
And I
I'll
said,
tell you what, in fairness to him, didn't Biden have him in his garage with his open
he
door
had, that's also wrong too.
next to his
So
Corvette? The boxes were right there.
it's all about accountability on both. We are people. You have to hold people accountable. I don't care what party you're in. I'm about, as me and my law enforcement background, accountability on all ends. And that's why I like RFK Jr. He wants to hold people accountable also. And he's a guy, he doesn't need this. He's a multi-millionaire. If you who don't know him, he's a very wealthy environmental attorney. His family suffered immensely. His uncle, Jack Kennedy, was assassinated. His father was assassinated by Sirhan Sirhan. He was probably the first tragedy that happened in our country by a Palestinian who did not like our stance with Israel. Right. Bobby Kennedy was a big supporter of Israel, and he killed him for that reason. Remember that. Yeah. So you look at now, history repeats itself. An assassination started then.
Yeah, I can't even imagine being in his shoes and the family comments about running after so many people were assassinated in the family. Like, enough, help out in another way.
He almost got killed. I put this in my YouTube channel a few weeks ago. He's in LA. This is the irony of the world, Bill. Not far from where his father was assassinated in the Ambassador Hotel in Los Angeles. He's only a mile and a half away from there. He's in another hotel, right? There's this guy who's posing as a U.S. Marshal. He's armed. Lying, he's posing, getting very close to him. Private security picks up he has a weapon and addressing the visual with local authorities immediately. Very close. History repeating itself. Extremely close.
Man, so somebody was on point. Somebody deserves a promotion. You know, somebody stopped it.
You know why? He had to pay for his own security because the Biden administration would not approve the Secret Service protecting him. Can you imagine that?
Of course, they would love to see their political opponents eliminated. Yeah. My opinion, not YouTube opinion.
No, that's the way, right. That's what it appears. But now I'm hoping Secret Service now, because he's a serious third-party candidate, he needs to protect it because of his family history. He is a target. I mean, these are the problems we have in this country where, especially Biden, he has to understand he is not going to have a second term. There's too many people, because all of you that come in are going to keep on taking from his voters, right? RFK Jr., Manchin, it looks like Manchin's going to come in on board now also. This guy, Kanye West, right? He's from the Green Party, ultra right. You got all these guys taken from the Democratic Party. So chances of them winning the Electoral College, what they need, slim and none. I think Biden's chances.
I did miss the entire debates, right? But I looked at some of the recaps today. Seemed like the focus was on the guy with the V, the long name, and Nikki Haley.
Vivek Ramaswamy. So man.
Where was what's his name? DeSantis and all this. I'm not a DeSantis fan. I know you are.
He had some good comments in there too. He you know what he's doing? He's acting presidential. He does not want to get like this between Nikki Haley. He answers. He doesn't answer them back. He talks about policies. I think that's the right way to act with it. That's the way it should be. This is a circus, a clown show, Bill. When they start acting like kids like this, okay, this is one of the great lines from the debates. If you haven't seen it, Nikki Haley calls Vivek Ramaswamy scum. I have never, ever in my life, I've seen a lot of these debates, ever heard one candidate call another one scum.
Is that because he brought up her daughter having TikTok account?
So she criticizes TikTok, right? But yet he brings up the point where it is the future. Right or wrong, the younger generation uses it. Like I said, I don't like it either because of the Chinese spy war, what could be happening. There's some good points there. But then he catches her daughter uses it. So what's going on here? What's the hypocrisy here you're talking about? Well, your own family, you're not regulating. Like you said, why don't you regulate your family first before you want to regulate everybody else? And then she said, keep my, like Will Smith. Remember what Will Smith said to Chris Rock? Keep your out of your wife's mouth, out of my, right? She said the same thing. Keep my daughter's name out of your voice or whatever. And he said, and then he continues talking and she goes, he's just scum.
Oh, hey, you know who I think would have been a good candidate, but maybe he didn't want to go against Trump. Maybe this round, maybe when I run in 2028, I'll have to go against him. Rick Scott, former governor of Florida. I think he's phenomenal. I like Rick Scott.
Yeah, Rick Scott. He had his own issues too. People think he was involved in a large Medicare scam.
Oh wow!
And he was almost indicted right when he won. So look into Rick Scott's history.
Developing a bullet train for Florida because it's such a long state.
they have it now.
Oh, they do. So where have I been? I've been locked up. Okay.
they opened up about a year ago. It's from really quick to go from Orlando to stops Fort Lauderdale. I think it stops in Palm Beach, Fort Lauderdale, and then it goes to Miami. It's good. I mean, if you don't want to deal with the traffic on Turnpike or deal 95, It's a different alternative, obviously.
What's the name of it?
It's in there. I remember. It's called something.
Can you put your vehicle on it, or is it just passenger line?
I think it's just passengers.
So they developed it on its own rail system, or are they using
Yeah.
existing?
Yeah,
Really?
they have a rail system for it. So
So
it's been popular.
Did they use the maglev system where it's like an elevated on the?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure about that,
Look
but
into that. That's fascinating.
yeah, you can look at all the videos and stuff out there. It's been there for a year. I'm glad DeSantis finally got over the hump there,
Well,
and he went forward.
Let me give you my experience. Now, we all know if you're in South Florida and you're going to go to Disney World, it's a long, grueling, annoying trip. About 3 hours or 2 hours, whatever, depending on where you're coming from. And so, again, let me give you my perspective as a former prisoner. When you're transported from South Florida to the Panhandle to reception or to a prison, you're in the back of a van with a bunch of stinky dudes. You're shackled with a black box, handcuffs like this, an immobilization black box, waist chain, leg irons, and in my case, many times because I had escape history, they would put the electric belt on me, right? So that was kind of tight. Yeah. So, this is where, for the audience who doesn't know, the officer who may or may not like you, want to be a jerk that day, has a remote control, and he can apply 100,000 volts right to your spine. If I'm not mistaken, that's the voltage. And that'll drop you because it's right near your kidneys and your spine and all that stuff. So imagine being in that condition, and I'm a little overweight, so I have a belly, and so everything's cutting into me here. They don't put the finger space between the cuffs like they're supposed to, right? They don't do that. They just crunch them down as if you're going 2 blocks to the police department.
Do they double lock them at least?
Generally, but I used to find ways to get out of all that stuff because I was a locksmith. So if I can get to the lock that's hanging on the chain, it's usually a small master lock. I'd pick that, put the chain through everything, take the black box off, and then proceed to pick the cuffs. And I would try to go, because I knew the ride from the south of Florida to the Panhandle could be 10 hours, could be 16 hours. You're stopping at jails and prisons all along the way.
Could be long, yeah.
And they don't tell you where they're going to put you out to use the bathroom, or, for an hour or two at a county jail on the way of the trip. They'll stop off periodically, or they'll stop, in Daytona overnight and check you into a jail, and then pick up on another van in the morning, so you have to stay. Sometimes if he's traveling very long, they put you in a jail overnight. So I have to take my restraints on and off. Each time you do that, that's an escape charge. But a lot of times I would remove my restraints. I would generally stay quiet about it because I didn't want the other guys who were maybe violent or had murder charges escaping, and I helped them. And I'd be responsible. I was doing it because the officers would put them so tight. I had times where I'd get back to the jail or prison, and I had indentations here over my bone that were bleeding. And you don't know who had those cuffs on last. They're supposed to spray them with disinfectant and all that nonsense. I don't know who had them on last. And to this day, especially on my ankles, I have scars over my Achilles heels.
Yeah.
You'd have
So you wish it was a train system. It made it a lot easier for you back in the day. Right?
Yeah, they would have had fun with me if they caught me. They would have probably shot me or electrocuted me or give me another charge. But I was trying to ride for comfort those days. I wasn't trying to escape. I was just trying to be free of torture.
Yeah, but look it up. They do have the train system. But interesting about Rick Scott. He was almost indicted himself. So
I didn't know that. Okay,
check him out. All Medicare scams, and he was on this big Medicare billing companies. So a lot of people thought that he both times he won. So he barely won, just like DeSantis the first time.
I saw a video about the Miami Merchandise Mart where they were investigating. There's a task force there assigned to investigate the Medicaid billing, and it's on the prosthetic devices. And they met the bare minimum Medicaid requirements. They'd have a few samples, 2 handbooks about the samples, an office space with nobody there but a secretary who didn't know what she was doing. She was told to hand out a card if somebody came. So a journalist went, "Oh, let me have a card." And she stepped outside and called, and it rang right back to that girl. She watched the girl answer her phone, And then the task force officer said, "We need more agents because this is millions. Just in Miami, it's huge, this scam." So
it's our tax dollars.
We've been looking into what's called the Medicaid waiver system, and we are finding out that is being fraudulently used as a form of creative finance to keep these places afloat in a very, very illegal way. So that's something we're on the trail of. We'll circle back.
Check it out. So, keep people accountable. We are a country of laws. You have to do things right. if you're scamming and doing things right, you'll be. I don't care who you are. No one's above the law,
Yep.
and regardless, this is our tax dollars, and people it have to be true, right, and be accountable. So good for you, Bill, for doing that.
The other federal people we spoke to said eventually, I'm not going to say too much here, but it
Yeah.
goes into not only Medicaid fraud, but like widespread racketeering for the people that are doing
Oh,
it.
it is racketeering. So conspiracy racketeering cases, and they're frauding Medicare. It's no joke. That's a serious problem. So good for you, Bill.
So here we are. We wrapped up the debates. I saw Nikki Haley going through it. I watched the highlights, and they're like you said,
Her and Vivek, man, they go back and forth. It's brutal between them. What was that line you picked up onto? She's Dick Cheney on heels.
Right. He said, if you want another Dick Cheney and as president wearing 4-inch heels, vote for her. Because evidently when she got out of public service, I guess when Trump was starting to take a lot of heat and people were leaving the administration or whatever, for whatever their reasons. Well, I guess he's tough to work with too, but it is what it is. She was one of the people that bailed on him, but she did it in a graceful way, I think, compared to some of the other ones. But then she immediately got on the board of Boeing and these other companies, and so she's profiting off wars, theoretically, and so he brought that stuff up.
I don't think she'll be her temperament there. She needs to be measured and she needs to be controlled. You want to be president of the United States and you're calling a fellow candidate a scum? I mean, how are you going to handle yourself when Putin talks down to you, or Xi Jinping? Are you going to call him a scum like that also? Act measured, act professionally, show that you're presidential. She did not. She doesn't get my vote for that. I don't care. I understand Will Smith, but he was out of control slapping Chris Rock. If he wants to if he wanted to get mouthy at a time, why not talk to him outside and say, hey, Chris, I didn't appreciate those comments about my wife. She had this medical condition. That's why she shaved her hair. G.I. Jane comment was inappropriate. Do things right, people. Go up to the stage, slap them. Hey, you're scum. What kind of example is that set to the younger generation? I'm not liking that.
Some people say it was staged to this day. Who knows? You know what I used to love about Trump? One of his things, his body language, how he commanded his environment. When he did the debates with Hillary Clinton, he circled her like a shark and made her very uncomfortable. He kept circling her. He got up in her personal space while he was, and he said, "Just right. You don't want me president because you'd be in prison." He told her,
I'll put you in prison. That's for sure. If I was president, you're right. You'll be in prison. You'll be in. Right. And she was like this.
The other thing
she would have been. She should have been.
When he would shake hands with world leaders or whoever it was, somebody who thought they were as powerful as he was, he'd grab their hand, a real firm handshake, and then grab their forearm sometimes or their hand and pull them to him like that.
It's a power move. Yeah, for sure.
Yes. Okay. And body language control. And other times, if they stepped in front of him, he'd grab them by the shoulder, push them back. He'd go in front of them and go like this.
I remember that he did that. I think that was the president of Montenegro, and then he likes to wear that red power tie, which is always good too. A, it's for the Republicans, and B, it's a power tie. So if you ever go for an interview or do anything else, wear yourself a nice red power tie. You'll get people's attention that you're serious about this position and you know what you're talking about.
He is a product of the New York media, for decades. Okay, he knows how to work the media, work the cameras, work the news cycle. He was bred for it. So there's nobody going to outwit this guy.
It's gonna be a fascinating 2024. It's gonna be an election for the ages. That's for sure. Yeah. An historical one. We see which way it can go any way right now, and no one knows which way it's going to go, which is fascinating.
And for the record, I announced that I'm running for president in 2028. I don't know. We got to make this official one of these days, probably in a few more years. But so I put it out there. Ignacio has aspirations to possibly run for Congress.
Yeah, the more I see of a circus, the less my aspirations grow.
Yeah. Oh God, yeah, you have everybody who has the littlest beef with you bringing up all that stuff.
So. Yeah, and then you see all the infighting. Imagine you have to deal with a Talib. You have the jihad squad there. That you have the other ones that are fighting. I mean, who wants to deal with that big nasty? And then you saw McCarthy, Ken McCarthy. Man, he's really angry at Matt Gaetz. He had an interview on CNN or Fox, and he really let him have it. The Crazy Eight, he calls them, who really did some damage. Michael Johnson, I think he's good. I think he has some, but there's some issues people have with him. He's Speaker of the House. I know we haven't talked much about him. He has a big problem right now, though. He's got to get the aid package sent already. Right. Get that approved already. Go with Israel. If you have to do it individually, do it individually. You have to do it united. The border, Israel, Ukraine, go forward, and then you got to get a budget for this fiscal year. Get the budget done. Get the budget done.
Something has to be done also to rein in the weaponization of law enforcement and the Justice Department to go after political adversaries. Now, if there's a legitimate case to be made, fine.
Sure.
But when you telegraph it in advance, you're going to target a person, then search for a crime. That I don't know.
That's
It's going to turn things on its head. I'm interviewing a guy I mentioned to you in another show, Frank Lordi. He wrote a book called Framed Innocence. So shout out to Frank and his family, Rosemary. Now, Rosemary and I are going to be doing a cooking show together here starting soon.
Cool.
Yep. And so we got a major production coming in to put that together. And I was going to do that initially, and it got put on the back burner, but she's really encouraged me, as Mary, to go ahead and do this. And Frank's going to be on the show, and he was a councilman in Ohio, and he was a Republican who brought down Democrat corruption. And boy, they retaliated viciously on him for exposing them and taking their office. And they ended up getting him put in prison. So I'm going to allow him to tell his story, but fascinating book. Check it out. It's called Framed Innocence.
Cool.
And so we're going to have him on. And it's just, he's like, look, nobody paid attention when this happened to me, but now this happened to Trump. This has been going on,
of course.
And so he's going to be coming on probably as a frequent
payback. Hey, you don't think McCarthy wants payback? Of course he does. He's already said he's going to primary. They're going to try primary Matt Gaetz out of Pensacola, Mace, a female out of South Carolina. Can't remember her first name right now. Last name Mace. All the crazy eight that he calls them, he wants to primary all of them and not give them support for payback. So Trump did the same thing when the Republicans that voted to impeach him, right? He wanted to go, and he did. He got rid of Liz Cheney, right, out of Wyoming. He got rid of another guy from Ohio. Can't remember right now. And so they all do the same thing to each other. It's all political payback. Unfortunately, that's what I don't like about the system. That's what bothers me, Bill, because I am not like that. I am about, if I was to go there, would be to help the people, to get my constituents right. I don't want political witch hunting, political paybacks. That's not what I'm about. So I don't know.
Yeah, we're about doing positive things. We keep this is the opinions of myself and Ignacio. A lot of the reporting and things we've discussed are our opinions, not YouTube, for educational and newsworthy purposes, and really repeating some of the things that we're getting from news sources, but also from our personal life experiences.
Yeah, so, and research and studying and stuff. And people, sometimes common sense goes long ways. And we have good common sense. Probably the average person with good common sense that's well read and well educated, it's probably the best person you can have in public office.
Right. I'd like to give a shout out also to Peter Tickton. I call him the man you want between you and your problems, the lawyer. He's actually representing Donald Trump, one of his attorneys. He's a dear friend of mine. He's representing Samantha Markle, Meghan Markle's sister. They were in court in Tampa 2 days ago. Judge has held back ruling on whether there's going to be a trial or not, but the judge was asking all the right questions. So shout out to Samantha. We stand beside you anytime you're ready to start co-hosting again. There's a seat here for you at the table. And Peter has agreed to come on the show also probably this week as well. So shout out to Peter. He wrote a beautiful book called What Makes Trump Tick, because they went to New York Military Academy together when they were young men. And they remained lifelong friends ever since. And now he represents them as well. One of the many attorneys. So,
sure. Oh, he has quite a few. That's for sure.
It'll be interesting if he comes on with me, you and him together. That'd be a pretty cool show.
That'd be very cool. Absolutely. A lot of interesting questions. We can ask questions in my background and stuff, and with Trump. And I imagine a lot of things he may not be able to talk about.
Right. He mentioned one thing that, YouTube put me on a temporary suspension.
Oh, that's right. So, we'll see about that.
I'm not going to say what it was, but
no.
It was what he knew as being Trump's lawyer, and YouTube.
I don't like to hear that. Yeah. You can't say anything about COVID, and you can't say about the election being stolen. Those are big no-nos.
Right. So we're not going to go there. Unfortunately, it was his lawyer saying it and pointing to the evidence where it happened. And he says, but whether it would have thrown the entire election, I don't know. But we have isolated incidents.
Yeah.
Again, that's not my opinion, not Ignacio's, not YouTube's opinion. So don't strike my
channel. I have no first-hand information about that. So I don't know anything about that.
So we're just saying we're trying to play within the rules of YouTube, because a lot of us are running this to put our stories out there and hopefully, earn a little money and raise awareness for crime prevention and all that.
For me, I just enjoy talking to people, talking to and getting some interesting stories out, getting some interesting information out, and helping people be more aware of current events. I think it's important for all of us. in a democracy. I'm I'll tell a little side story here. I'm an annual pass member at Mount Vernon out here, Washington's home, his estate, and there's a lot of history there, and you really get to appreciate the sacrifices. How we almost lost the Revolutionary War, very close, and Washington's courage and ideas and battles led us to this great country. And even after winning the war, it was a disaster. Just getting the Constitution done, and he didn't want to become president. And you know what? He didn't join another party. He's the only independent president we've ever had in 2 terms with all the electoral votes. Good man, about something to think about.
Right.
No party loyalty to the Constitution.
There was even discussion back then, if I remember correctly from my study of history, where they were trying to decide whether to call the head office the king or the president.
He said, "I'm no king.
Enough of kings. Enough.
I'm no king. I'm not King George.
Right.
We got rid of that clown, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to be a president, terms serving the people." And yes, no, the museum's phenomenal. His estate is unbelievable. I think every American, his tomb is there where he's buried, and Martha. It's really touching, and it's really an amazing estate to visit. I take my daughters there, and anytime I have family visit, we go there. And I've also been in Monticello. If you haven't been Thomas Jefferson, you can see where he's buried. He wrote the Declaration of Independence. An amazing person. Our founding fathers were really brilliant, and you should check out these places when you come visit Virginia. Amazing. It should be a requirement. You go to DC to go check Mount Vernon out, at least Mount Vernon. Amazing stuff there.
All right. Another great show. Ignacio, thanks for joining us. All the links are in the descriptions. Check out Steal a Spotlight TV. It airs 3 times on a Friday, Saturday, twice on Saturday. And it's more of a regional Midwest channel, cable channel, but it's been getting a lot more exposure lately, especially.
Oh, good.
Thank God with my involvement. They love me over there, and I love the producers and the network that puts me out. Again, if somebody wants to become an underwriter or a sponsor, contact me. There are ways to do that. And we, no matter what, sometimes over time people don't see eye to eye, but we still try to keep it civil and get along and honor our obligations. So
that's great.
All right.
All right, Bill.
All right. Take care, Ignacio. We'll see you again next time.
All right. Take care, guys.
Bye.